In this video, you're going to learn how to remove data from the Firebase database. I'm going to go ahead and remove all of the code except for our onSet call. Now, I'm actually going to go ahead and comment out this call too. We already have the data saved to Firebase, so what we're going to focus on is removing some part of the database. We could wipe the whole thing, but let's go ahead and try to wipe a specific value. I'm going to say that I don't want to store whether or not a user is single anymore. That's an invasion of privacy. So we're going to wipe is single from the data. Now that lives over inside of the database right now. If I go to the data viewer, we can see it. We can prove is single exists. The goal is to use code to get rid of it as opposed to just clicking this X button, which would indeed allow you to remove the data. Over here, we're going to go ahead and get that done by learning about a brand new method called remove. Remove is also called on your references. So we get a reference to a specific piece of data. Instead of setting a value for it, we use remove to remove it. Now, I know we haven't used remove before, but what I would like you to do is try to use the documentation to figure out how it works. The goal is to remove is single from the database. Now, if you mess up and accidentally delete everything, that's fine. You can just rerun this set call to get the data back to its working place. So take a few minutes to dive into the docs for the reference remove method. Try to remove just is single, and when you're done, click play. All right, hopefully you were able to use the docs to actually get this done. Being comfortable with documentation is a super important skill set. It's going to make life so much easier for you. Over here, we are looking at set. I'm going to scroll all the way up to the top and look for the remove method, and it's sitting right here. If I click it, we can take a look at exactly what we have to pass in and what comes back. Now, once again, it returns a Firebase promise containing void, and it looks like all we do is pass in an optional callback. Since we're not opting for the callback pattern, there's no need to pass anything in. And if you were still confused reading the documentation, hopefully the examples got you in the right direction. Here they get a reference to some data. They call remove on the reference and the data goes away. So this is exactly what you needed to do to complete the challenge. I'm going to use database.ref to get a reference. I'm going to get a reference to the is single data. I'm going to use remove to actually delete it. And then I'm also going to set up some promise chaining. So right here, I'll break things out into their own lines. Then I can add a then callback for my success handler, and I'll add a catch callback that gets called with the error argument for my error handler. Perfect. All I'm going to do is print a few messages, console.log, data was removed, and then down below, console.log, did not remove data, and I will just dump E to the screen to let them know why. So you need to do something like this. Maybe you didn't attach the promises. That's perfectly fine, as long as the data did get wiped. Now, if I go ahead and save this, we can switch back over to the data viewer, wait for the application to refresh, and hopefully we see is single getting removed, and right there it is. Is single was the only property that was deleted. Everything else stayed in place. Now we can take this example as far as we want to go. We could delete the entire database by just setting it up like this. Now we get a reference to the root of the database, and this would wipe everything, bringing us back to that clean place. Over here, we can wait for the code to run, and we should see red for everything, and that is exactly what we have. Now we start off with an empty database that we could build up from scratch. So using remove allows you to remove everything, but more commonly, it allows you to hone in on a very specific thing, a specific piece of data, and delete that. Now, I do want to talk about one more way we can delete data real quick before we go. I am going to uncomment this and comment out what we have down below. This is going to allow me to rebuild that database. And once the database is rebuilt, we're actually going to explore how we can use set to delete data as well. Over here, the data is back, so we're going to try to do the exact same thing with set. To get that done, we still need to get a reference to the data we're trying to remove. So database.ref, getting a reference to is single. Now, instead of using remove to wipe the data, we're going to use set to wipe the data. When you want to wipe data in Firebase, you just pass in null as the value. This is exactly equivalent to calling remove like we did before. And we can prove that by just looking at the docs. If I scroll down to set, there's actually a little blurb on that. Passing null for the new value is equivalent to calling remove. So this is going to remove everything at that place, and we can go ahead and prove that by actually running the code checking out the database viewer, and waiting for the application to refresh. Just like we saw before, isSingle should be the only affected property, and it is. That goes away, everything else stays in place. Now, passing null to set does work, but once again, remove is way more explicit, so we're going to be sticking with calling the remove method when we're actually trying to wipe some data. That's it for this video. We know how to remove data. In the next one, we're going to learn how we can more efficiently update our data. Imagine we wanted to update name and age with one call. How would we get that done? Well, with set, we can't. With the update method, we can. So I'll see you in the next video where we explore how to use that.